Hello, Chaoszine. This is Meek from Visions of Atlantis, and I'm up to tell you my top 5 of the artists that most influenced me or the most left something to me. My first top artist is Mr. Kai Hansen from Gamma Ray and Halloween. And the thing is that I have a special connection with this artist. I mean, not on the human level, even if I had the honor to meet him, but because I have to say that his music, his songwriting, the approach, the rock and roll approach to the stage and music in general that he has shaped my way of approaching music, you know. Like, I remember I was like 14 or 13 years old, like really young. That's a long time ago now. Back then at school you used to exchange CDs with your classmates or your schoolmates, you know. I was just beginning to get into rock music, metal music, and at a certain point I got this record which was Somewhere Out in Space. It was 1997, and I remember this cover, you know, with the spaceships and, you know, the pyramids and everything. I was like, okay, this is cool. This is a super cool graphics, you know. And I didn't know the band back then. So I get this record from a friend of mine. He was a metalhead. I put it in my stereo and I was like, oh my God, this is heaven. What is this? This is pleasure to my ears. This band has a connection. This kind of music has a connection with the deepest parts of my body. And I totally fell in love with Gamma Ray. And I remember that between, I think it was 13 or 14 years old up until 16, 17, I ate the discography. It was constantly in repeat, and I remember it was like Power Plant, No World Order, Land of the Free, and of course Somewhere Out in Space. It was a constant repeat of the Majestic shortly after, and I had these Gamma Ray records in constant repeat for years. Actually, it was years. So that's why Kai Hansen has a special place in my heart. Number 2 is also pretty easy for me. We're still in the power metal zone, and it's Tobias Sammet. I was a fan of Edguy. I think it was 2005, 2006 when I started to, you know, get into the records. I think Rocket Ride was the album that made me fall in love with them, which is pretty late if you think about it. But then I went backwards, you know, and I started to listen to the previous record and the previous record and the previous record, back to the beginning of Edguy. Tobias has a songwriting style that influenced my songwriting style and my vision of music. He's the master of choruses. I can't think of a single Edguy or Avantasia song with a chorus that is not super catchy. You see what I mean? This way of using the backing vocals, the choirs in the songs from Avantasia 1 to the Scarecrow and everything, like, he really has a special approach, and I always feel he is one of these pure musicians that doesn't care about the market, which is lovely. He has his own approach, his own vision of his music. What he puts down in the record is just that. You know, it comes from his, I don't know, creation area, because I don't want to say from his brain. I don't think it comes from his brain. I always think it's, you know, something in the ether somehow. And what ends up in the records is this projection of what he has in mind back to the music in a super pure, super spontaneous, super true way. And I admire this. Artist number 3, this is a weird one probably, it's James Hetfield from Metallica. Weird because, of course, you know, like, there are so many debates. As a singer, there are so many debates that I've been doing throughout my entire life. And of course, you know, one could say, hey, James Hetfield, you know, he's not the best singer in the world. You know, there are so many better singers, like, I don't know, Russell Allen. Russell Allen is undoubtedly one of the best singers. Or, you know, Tom Englund from Evergrey. You have a shirt of Tom Englund right now as an interviewer. And, you know, he's such an amazing singer, in my opinion. But James Hetfield is one of the singers, amongst with others, you recognize in a second. Like, you hear like a vowel coming off his mouth, and you say, okay, this is Metallica, this is James Hetfield. As I said, he's not the only one, but he is the one, through the music of Metallica, made me understand the importance of this unicity. You know, sometimes it's way more important than the technique. Forget about the sometimes. It's way more important than the technique. Having a voice that is recognizable, having a personality in the way of singing that makes you unique and makes you stand out amongst the infinite amount of amazing singers that you have all over the world is something that is extremely relevant. It's extremely relevant. And this I personally have learned through Metallica, especially recognizing that technique-wise, he's not the best. And who fucking cares? You see what I mean? That unicity they have passed through. And this, through Metallica, reached me in a very special way. And this is why I would mention it in my top 5 100%. I'm your dream, my industry. I'm your eyes while you're away. Artist that is in my top 5 at number 4, Bruce Dickinson. For the exact opposite reason of why I mentioned James Hetfield in top 3. Because I so much admire his way of singing in terms of technique, but also in terms of unicity. Like, of course, he's also super recognizable. It's one of these voices that you cannot mix with anyone else. Dickinson also has the technique, you know, like he is one of the singers that formed generations of singers after him. He's one of the singers that you listen to and you say, okay, I want to learn how to sing in that way. You know, like as everyone else, I started with cover bands. And of course, Iron Maiden was one of the bands that we covered the most with all my bands throughout my, garage years, if we can call them like this. And of course, first you wanted to sing Fear of the Dark, and you want to sing Hallowed Be Thy Name, then it was The Weaker Man, you know, and you can go on forever, you know, because the more you discover Iron Maiden, the more you discover the amazing range that Dickinson have, the amazing expressivity that Dickinson has, and basically you try to emulate him. So it becomes inevitably a singing model. And I'm sure that I'm not the only one. I'm sure that there are like hundreds and hundreds of other singers that listen to Iron Maiden, played Iron Maiden with their bands in the rehearsal room or on the stages all over the world, in the bars, in the pubs, covering them. And they were like, okay, I gotta try to do this as he does it, because he does it the perfect way. And that's the thing. And still nowadays, at his venerable age, he is still singing the songs in the original key, and he's still performing, jumping, shouting, screaming, like making the show. Like, he still has so much to do, and he's such a pure singer. You know, like, his voice is so wow. How else can you define it? Number 5, I want to mention Alice Cooper, because his shows are theater shows, and I feel like he is the one who brought theater on stage into rock and metal music, if we can say it this way. And as you can see, this is something that we took inspiration from. Of course, I would never compare Visions of Atlantis to Alice Cooper, but the concept of, you know, putting closer theater shows and rock music, metal music, this comes from him. In my opinion, at least in my experience, this is the inspiration that comes to my mind when I think of our show and where we are going in terms of direction and what you could think of doing on stage in terms of, you know, like stage props, acting, and everything else. And Alice Cooper made this his superpower. Let's call it his superpower. When you watch an Alice Cooper show, it feels like you're at Broadway, but you are at a metal fest, or you're at Broadway, but you are in a concert venue. What he did is bringing musical into rock music, and I'm very grateful because it's so inspiring and it's so unique in his own way. You're